In that case, Mr. Wright, please give us an explanation to support your theory. What makes you think the criminal had the rope on hand to create a pendulum? I mean, we already presented stuff. Do I have to present it again? Like that, because you can see it. It's right there, it's dangling down.
Take that!
And the meaning of this is, if you want to know where the rope came from, it's hanging right there in front of your glorious beard. Ah, yes, my beard is quite glorious. This is one of the wires from the bridge. When the lightning struck the bridge and set it on fire, one of the suspension wires came loose from its anchor. The criminal didn't have any time to waste, so they tied the wire around Elise Dunham's body. Whee! I was lucky it launched at the end, because there was simply no other way to move the body. Huh. Alright. How much is in that bloody cup? Mr. Gadot! What? Seems that Mr. Gadot is more focused on his coffee than answering my question. It seems that the odds of a rope being readily available were very high. I suppose this is not an impossibility after all.
Objection!
Possible or impossible? That's not the question we need to ask. There's only one question. Did that really happen? Trite, I wonder if you can prove what happened to us. Do you have any actual evidence that the body was swung over like a pendulum? Because I've always pointed out, like, I thought she'd hit the side, like, of the cliff, like, bang, into the cliff, and that caused the bruising. But if she launched at the end, she would have fell and then caused bruising, so fell 10 feet after death. And that's where the fall comes in, isn't it? Before I present my evidence, let me review what we know so far. According to this photo, one of the wires snapped. Looking at the map, we can see it's the one that was in front of the inner temple. So then, that was the spot where the criminal... Yes, precisely. Now let us consider the body's movement by looking at the overhead map. If the body was pushed from this point here, yet there's enough wire to make it across, it would drop on the opposite bank at approximately this point. Did you just say drop? Well, they must have failed to catch the body on the other bank. What? What makes you think something like that happened? Because I have evidence that suggests a body dropped some distance. What kind of evidence? Take a look at this autopsy report. It says here that her body fell about 10 feet after her death. 10 feet, huh? That's most likely the height difference between the two sides. The body overswung due to the forward momentum, but then came loose and fell about 10 feet. And then, as a result of the landing impact, this crystal sphere was knocked loose. Oh. That's... Yes, this blood-stained amethyst crystal is the one that came off Miss Elise Dunham's staff. And even more important is the place where this crystal sphere was found. Indeed. I believe it's already marked on this overhead map. Crystal was found... Precisely, Your Honor. In the very spot where the pendulum would arrive if given the right amount of speed. Oh my, that's right. This explains your theory quite well, Mr. Wright. You provided us with a way the body could have been moved that night. An impressive deduction, Mr. Wright. What was that noise? Most impressive. Mr. Wright. I thought this cold coffee might help you cool down. What is the meaning of this, Mr. Gadot? And that was a dark and bitter guess that you made, Trite. But you forgot about one thing. Oh, and what would that be? The aroma. Huh? A coffee's most reliable accomplice is its deep and profound gravy aroma. The rest of the court doesn't speak Coffinese. Can you elaborate a bit more? If the criminal had sent the body to the other side, like you say, then naturally there must have been an accomplice lying in wait to catch it. An accomplice? The criminal wasn't able to cross Dusky Bridge. So who collected the body? See, this is the thing here, like, proving all this just proves that the murderer was still stuck at the inner temple. That's the way I'd go if I were you, Gadot. What do you have to say about that, Trite? Mr. Gadot is correct. This can't be the work of a single person. Well, Mr. Wright, you know what you must do? Yes, Your Honor. But he couldn't have made it to Hazakura Temple without an accomplice. Very well then, if you please, Mr. Wright. Who was the person that received the body on the Hazakura Temple side? I still feel like that's Iris, because that matches up with, where is it? I'm sure I had a body? A picture of the body being stabbed. No, I don't, do I? That was just a testimony from, it's Bikini's testimony. Like, because Iris was still doing something. I still believe, like, Bikini was right in what she saw. She just doesn't understand all the circumstances. So, it's still Iris. She was on that side, so she's not the murderer. That's what we can prove here. It's like, yay, we won, but that just proves that the murderer is on the other side at the inner temple, which implicates 2 people, maybe 3, Gadot, because you were there, clearly. So it's like, maybe that's his play? Trying to hide the fact he's the killer. Like, he tried to... Like, if we're going like the logic, he cleaned everything up and didn't see the Maya written in blood... Then did he do the killing? Like, what I'm thinking now is, like, because we know Pearls couldn't channel Dhalia. So, and then, like, based on her statement and the letter and stuff like that being opened previously, and then we pursued that logic that Gadot was working with Elise. So, Elise was channeling Dhalia. The only thing I can think of, like, the way this all works out is, like, Elise was channeling Dhalia. Dhalia was trying to kill Maya. And in order to protect Maya, Gadot killed Dhalia, who was actually Elise. That's what makes sense to me there. But why is he trying to... Like, so far he's just implicating Maya, but is he actually just implicating that the murder was still at the inner temple and not Iris? Is he trying to protect Iris and Maya? It's, again, like, this is clearly us trying to figure out what Gadot was doing. That's what this case is about. Where were you and what were you doing, Gadot? But anyway, the question is, like, who was the person that received the body on Hazakura Temple side? It's like, Iris. Take that! It can only be you, Sister Iris. Huh? But I don't see why you're so surprised. The only way to transport the body from Dusky Bridge is by snowmobile. But with her bad back, Sister Bikini could never pick up a body like that. You're the only one that could have managed it. Objection! Trite, were you even listening to the witness's testimony? On the night of the crime, this little cutie pie was on cleanup duty in the in-temple garden after the mother-daughter bloodbath. Objection! Can't have been. I haven't forgotten, but have you, Mr. Gadot? This witness was also seen at Hazakura Temple, and wasn't stranded in the inner temple as well. Let's remember that detail. Desecrating the corpse of the victim. Strange indeed. It's almost as if On that night, the defendant was in 2 different places at the same time. Sister Iris, let me ask you something. Why didn't you mention it when you first gave your testimony? Mention what? The pendulum, of course. Using this sketch drawn by an eyewitness, I've established how the body was moved using the burnt-out bridge. Which means it's now a fact that this occurred, something you should have already known. No, I had no idea. I didn't know anything about the pendulum. But the body couldn't have been passed along to the other side without your help. So you should have known about it. In fact, it'd be impossible for you to be clueless about this whole thing. Unless you're not really Iris to begin with. What? How can you say that, Mr. Wright? What? What? What kind of nonsense is this? You're saying this witness isn't Iris of Hazakura Temple?
Objection!
You're telling me this is bloody Dhalia? Are you serious, Trite? You mean this woman is... There's no one beside Iris that could have received the corpse that night. Now I get it. Now I know why I've been sick to my stomach this whole trial. Why her whole demeanor changed so suddenly from yesterday. And why she's trying to pin this murder on Maya. It's not Gadot trying to do it. It's bloody Dhalia. Oh, I love this trial. What, this cold case? The woman that's standing there at the witness stand. Her real name is Dhalia Hawthorne.
Take that!
I've never thought I'd have to utter your name again, let alone see you. It's been a long time, Dhalia Hawthorne. Hawthorne? Sister Iris had a twin sister. And you're looking at her, Miss Dhalia Hawthorne. That name rings some bells. Distant bells, some cross bells, but bells nonetheless. Huh. It's just your imagination, Gramps. This file contains all the relevant data about Dhalia Hawthorne. 2 minutes later. Oh yes, I remember now. That case, 5 years ago. My name is Dhalia Hawthorne. I just want to say, it's an honor for me to be here in your noble presence. The honor is all mine. That hair. No, the honor is all mine. I like how it just fades as like he's not changed a bit. But according to this, Dhalia Hawthorne is already dead. It says her execution was carried out last month. So what? Death has no meaning in this courtroom. What? I'm dead, yeah. Order. Wait a moment. How can you... My sister, she's already dead. What kind of...
Objection!
You of all people should already understand. After all, the blood on the master of the Karain channeling technique flows within that body. The Karain channeling technique? Now where have I heard that? That's right. You're not Dhalia Hawthorne herself. You're the spirit of Dhalia, currently inhabiting the body of a spirit medium. Yes, I've done that before. What an exciting story. Exciting, but quite impossible. You're asking us to buy that Dhalia Hawthorne just happened to be channeled by someone on the very night of the murder to a temple where her twin sister Iris was. Well, if you're going to put things that way, then yes.
Objection!
We're supposed to believe a coincidence like that just happened.
Objection!
Naturally, it was no coincidence. The whole thing was part of a plan from the very beginning. It's all written right here in these instructions. What's that? These instructions were written by your mother, Morgan Fay. And part of the plan called for Dhalia Hawthorne to be channeled. That night, there were 2 irises at Hazakura Temple. 2 of them? Even the time the channeling was planned out. As soon as you hear the lights out bell, In other words, 10 p.m. However, Iris was seen before dinner time. Means the Iris that was at dinner was the real Iris. And the Iris who gave me the hood in the main hall was also the real Iris. Meaning that the Iris Sister Bikini saw at the inner temple was someone else dressed as her, namely one Dhalia Hawthorne.
Objection!
Do you even know what you're saying, Trite? It's all channeling the spirit of Dhalia Hawthorne business. Yes, it's true that you found plans that talk about it. However, there's one thing that's perfectly clear. The witness currently standing in the witness stand is the real Iris. What? Calm down and remember what you know about the night of the crime. After meeting Sister Bikini, the Dhalia Hawthorne that had been channeled would have been stranded at the inner temple due to the lightning strike. Nope. She was being channeled by Elise. Or Misty Faye. It was later that the body was moved by pendulum. That's right. Naturally, that would mean that the Iris that received the body was the real Iris. Are you with me so far? Yes. After being notified of what happened, the police came to Hazakura Temple's main hall. There, they found Iris in her room and arrested her. And ever since, he's been under police supervision at the detention center. Yes, I suppose. Can't deny any of that. Phew, thank goodness. Looks like he's finally convinced. But something still seems off, way off. I'm not convinced that the Iris here is the same one from the other night. Huh. I suppose you're about to say something really ridiculous. Like the real Iris and the spirit of Dhalia somehow switched places. Switched places? To be perfectly honest, there are still quite a few things I don't understand, but I do know that unless we confirm the witness's identity, we can't continue with this trial. Iris doesn't have the spiritual power needed to channel Dhalia, which means they must have switched places somewhere. Well, Mr. Wright, since the time she was arrested at Hazakura Temple, have there been any chances for Iris to switch places with Dhalia Hawthorne? Yes. Yes, when Edgeworth got all scaredy. He was like, oh no, there's an earthquake, I need to hide under a tree. Like that, I remember that clearly. That's what he said. Your Honor, I think there might have been one chance. Oh, explain yourself. Yesterday for a few minutes, Iris's whereabouts were unknown. Unknown? What do you mean? What I mean is, there was a span of time in which Iris was able to move about freely, unsupervised, yeah, because we were going to do a search party and everything. Well, who was it? Who could give a murder suspect time to move about freely like that? I'm sorry, I know you didn't mean to. It wasn't your fault. The person who gave Iris the chance to freely move about was... sorry, Edgy. This is Mr. Edgeworth, isn't it? Your Honor, there was a fairly large earthquake yesterday, was there not? An earthquake? Earthquake? Oh my goodness, the inner temple! This kind of tremor might... How could I have... She fled. She escaped. There we go. We went to the inner temple right away. And it's true, Iris was already there. However, they had already switched places by that point in time. When I arrived at the training hall, I was met by none other than Dhalia Hawthorne. That's quite enough already, Mr. Wright. Now see here, I kind of want to go back and see if she words stuff slightly differently and see what was said. No judge in his right mind would consider the idea of spin-up channeling it. Be quiet. There we go. It's been a long time, Mr. Judge. That voice. Guess I'll have to ask again. Upon meeting a beautiful lady, always ask for her name and profession. Nice, Gadot, I like that, nice. That's one of my rules. Dhalia Hawthorne, and my current profession, permanently retired. Dead, you mean? So you're not going to bother hiding your identity anymore, huh? Why should I? After all, I'm dead. There's really nothing you can do to punish me. Look at that face. What is going on here? Dhalia Hawthorne. I never thought we'd meet again, and I never thought we'd meet like this. But this time I'll end it. For her and for myself. To be continued. February 10th, 1:06 p.m. District Court, Courtroom. Number 7. Now then, let's continue where we left off, shall we? Well, witness? Yes, how can I help you, Mr. Judge? Well, it seems that if we're to learn the truth, we'll need to hear your testimony. I have no problem with that. But when you've seen what I have, sometimes the truth is better left unknown. In any case, let's hear your testimony. Tell us about the plan that was carried out that night. Alright. The whole plan began with my death. A stupid plan hatched by Morgan Fay to install her own daughter as the next master. But for it to work, Maya Fay would first have to die. The idea was for me to kill Maya and then have the blame pinned on Iris. The plan went wrong, but it seems to have succeeded anyway. God, I've got no contradictions in that. So that means... Wait a minute. Did you just say the plan was to kill Maya Fay? Yes. You have a problem with that? Don't give us that nonsense. There's no way that... Watch yourself, trite. If you've got a problem, solve it during cross-examination. That's one of my rules. Mr. Gadot is correct, and by the way, that's one of my rules as well. To kill Maya? Could it be true? I've got nothing in that I can think to contradict there. But it's like, oh, that's your plan? Okay. That's it. Like, that's it. Like, the whole plan began with my death. Okay. You were executed last month, correct? Yes, I was hanged. It wasn't exactly pleasant. How did you manage to discuss the plan? How did you talk with Morgan Fay? Last year, she was transferred to the same detention center as me. Ah. Since I was on death row and she was my mother, it was actually pretty easy to meet with her. I see. So that's when you discussed the plan. Huh. Are you crazy? At first, that woman was planning to kill me as well. Even though I'm her own daughter. All to make Pearl Fay the master of Coraine. She's a cold, twisted woman. She thought she could finally regain her lost honor. The honor she'd lost when her younger sister Misty took her place as the master. Ever since that day, she's been working on this plan. A plan, huh? A stupid plan hatched by Morgan Fay to install her own daughter as the next master. You're talking about Pearl Fay, is that correct? Yes. At first she had high hopes for the two of us. You and your twin sister Iris. That's correct. Fortunately, neither of us had much spiritual power. That's why we were abandoned by her, along with our father. Abandoned? The only person I ever really cared about in life was myself. My sister was a nuisance, so I convinced my father to leave her at an old temple. You mean Iris? Yes, my father remarried a woman, who also had a daughter. The less children you have, the more money there is to go around, right? And on top of that, my father had absolutely no interest in children in general. How horrible. Yeah. The really horrible one was that woman. That bitter, vengeful woman. It was her stubbornness that gave birth to that child. Pearl Fay. She was born with an abundance of spiritual power. Unfortunately for her. Morgan Fay heaped all of her broken hopes and dreams onto that poor child's back. All because of her pathetic dreams of having her bloodline become the main family. But for it to work, Maya Fay would first have to die. Maya would have to die, but why? Oh, the music changed there. For our bloodline to succeed as the main family, thus making Pearl the new master. The remaining descendants of the current master had to be taken care of. Objection! But Pearls would never agree to a plan like that. She adores Maya. That's sad. You still don't get it, do you? What Pearl wanted had nothing to do with it. Morgan didn't care one bit about Pearl. The only thing she cared about was the position of the master. That's all. That's ridiculous. She was willing to sacrifice anything and anyone to achieve her goal. The life of her daughter, and naturally the life of Maya Fay as well. How could anyone do that? The idea was for me to kill Maya, then have the blame pinned on Iris. You were going to kill Maya? Pearl didn't need to know anything about it. All she had to do was follow the instructions in the letter and channel me. Then I would have simply used her body and finished the job. In any case, I'm already dead and there's nothing any of you can do to me. So the plan was to blame the crime on your younger twin. On Sister Iris of Hazakura Temple. She and I look absolutely identical. No one can tell us apart. If someone were to witness me killing Maya, naturally they would think it was Iris that had done it, yeah, because you were dead. And the witness in this case was the head nun, Sister Bikini. I never would have guessed she was going to return to Hazakura Temple that night. But she wound up seeing Iris's crime anyway. Why did you want to pin the murder on Iris in the first place? She's your twin sister, isn't she? Twin sister? Don't make me laugh. She's nothing but a backstabber. I couldn't care less about her, thank you. Backstabber? Yeah, what does that mean? You just don't understand. You never will. Anyway. The plan went wrong, but it seems to have succeeded anyway. What did you mean by backstabber? You think the plan was a success? You heard me. Just as that woman had hoped. Maya Fay is dead. Now the title of the master will pass on to Pearl Fay. Objection! That's absurd. Maya is she's just trapped inside this sacred cavern. Really? You're as foolishly optimistic as ever, aren't you? My darling Pheonix. Do you want to know the truth? Ever since we met, I've despised you. Your sniveling naivete and your pathetic faith in other people. I just want to know one thing. What did you personally think of Morgan Fay's plan? I told you already, didn't I? It was a stupid plan. It had no point, no value other than fulfilling her own greedy desires. Yes, it was certainly nothing to be proud of. That's how you feel. Why did you help her carry it out? Why would you do it? Why would you kill Maya? To get back at Mia. You may not understand it, but being the kind and gentle soul that you are, you may not be able to appreciate why someone like me would help a woman like that. So then tell me, why? Isn't obvious. I'm not like that woman. I only act in my own self-interest. It was to get revenge on Mia. The reason I helped her was for myself. My own personal satisfaction. What did you say? It's this woman, Dhalia Hawthorne. She had her own reason for wanting Maya dead? Do you understand why I would kill Maya Fay now? What my goal was? Yes. Obviously. It's because you were helping Morgan Fate. No, Phoenix, no. Helping? Don't make me laugh. From the day I was born to the day I died, I never helped anyone. I lived for myself, and in the end, I died for myself. I thought that was obvious. So she wasn't actually cooperating with Morgan. She was just using Morgan and her plan so she could accomplish her own goal. All I wanted to do was kill Maya Fey. That was the only way I could think of to get revenge. Revenge? Looks like I have no choice but to present that piece of evidence. Can't believe it, she meant to kill Maya. Got to keep a cool head. And I need to get more information out of her. It's the only way to understand this plan and what she was after as well. So I'm assuming the whole plan began with my death, a stupid plan for it to work. The idea was for me to kill Maya. The plan went wrong, but it succeeded anyway. Do you understand why I would kill Maya Fey now? What my goal was. Your goal was Mia Fey.
Objection!
Could it be that your actual goal had nothing to do with Maya Fey herself? As I said, none of you have the power to punish me anymore, because I'm already dead. And I had the same problem, you see. Can't punish the dead, and you can't take revenge against them either. You wanted to take revenge on someone? I was sentenced to die because of that woman. Mia Fey. I somehow knew this was it. I wanted to send her a message. It was at her hands that I suffered my first humiliation. I wanted her to feel the same pain she made me feel. Sadly, when I realized revenge was impossible, I gave up. And the reason it was impossible... So perhaps because Mia Fey had already died? Yes. And I realized there's only one way to take revenge against the dead. And how do you do that? Even when the body dies, the spirit, the ego, it lives on, forever. I wanted to take away the person that Mia Fey loved most. I wanted to kill her with my own hands. That would be the one and only way I could take my revenge against Mia Fey. That was the reason I helped out with that woman's plans. Just for that? For that you would kill Maya? Your goal was no different than that of Morgan Fey. As they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. What a cruel plan. Cruel, cold, and heartless. Don't waste your time preaching to the dead. Just had a thought. I need to... Like her hair color is dark brown. Because I just had this thought of like everything that's going on at like the Inner Temple and stuff. Like we know she ran off and then there was the extra locks and stuff. Like we're assuming you've taken over Iris. Like, cause it's like her hair color doesn't match slightly. Like it's a lighter dark brown than what she's got now, but the hair color she's got at the moment is more like Maya's, but it's still got a brown tinge to it. And the reason I'm thinking that is because I don't know if we can show the room, but yeah, the Inner Temple, it's like there's a chest of drawers to change your clothes there. Iris is the one who's in the Inner Temple. You're Maya. Like, this is your plan. Like, I was thinking, like, why is she telling us all this? And it's that case of, like, you want to be found guilty and sentenced to death again as Maya. Because then if we find you guilty, Maya dies. That's your game plan. Don't waste your time preaching to the dead. I've already told you, it's not a thing you can do to me. Grr. That night. At about 9:30 p.m., I materialized into this world. I quickly pinned my hair up and put on a demon-warding hood. Then I picked up the staff that was by my side and left Hazakura Temple. So, it was at least Duanim who channeled her after all. That ridiculous head nun never noticed a thing. She left Maya Fey at the inner temple and wobbled back, clutching her poor old back. What did you do then? That kid was easier to handle than I had hoped. I caught up with her in front of the stone lantern. Then I took out the dagger I got from the storeroom and... So then you... saying you stabbed Maya? It's strange, but I don't have a clear memory of what happened after that. What does that mean? No clear memory? I don't know. I think I was stabbed. Yeah. In the back. He was stabbed. At the last minute, Maya Fey must have stabbed me. I'm sure of it. That's not like her at all. Maya wouldn't stab a French fry with a plastic fork. Anyway, I suddenly lost consciousness. But before I did, I scrawled her name on the lantern. Just as I was passing out, I wrote Maya behind my back. I had hoped it would cast suspicion on her. It can't be. But I believe she was thinking of that until the bitter end. That's where my memory temporarily stops. It stops? I don't have any memory of actually killing Maya Fey with my own two hands. My very last memory was Maya's terror-filled eyes. When I woke up after that, I was in the sacred cavern surrounded by darkness. You were in the sacred cavern? The entrance was sealed with one of those trick locks. Somehow I had been trapped in there. But how did you wind up in there? I'd like to know that myself. Anyway, I was worried. I didn't know whether or not Maya Fey was dead. And I swore I wouldn't return to the underworld until I knew I had killed her myself. For a ghost, you're one tough cookie. I went to get out of there and make sure she was dead. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't get out. The trick lock stopped you, huh? I didn't know how to remove it. Then you're saying you were actually confined against your will inside this sacred cavern? Yes, I wanted to get rid of that annoying lock as soon as possible. But it wasn't easy. I kept getting interrupted while I was working on it. Interrupted? It was early in the morning, but someone came into the training hall. What? Who? Could it have been Maya? Pearls. I thought the same thing, but I couldn't see. Why not? If someone had spotted me, I would have lost my chance to take revenge. So I made sure to hide myself, well, at the back of the sacred cavern. That morning, only 2 people could have gone into the training hall. Maya and Pearls. Pearls went there to cover the hanging scroll in gravy. Still, I finally managed to remove the lock. But I was too late. What do you mean by that? The flies had already started to gather. The bridge had been fixed, and the police had started their investigation, correct? See there, the chest of drawers. It's got spare clothes in there. Naturally, I couldn't go out. So instead, I returned to the cavern and put the lock back on myself. I realized I wouldn't get a chance to see Maya's corpse as I had hoped, because because you're in her body. But just then, Lady Luck showed up. Lady Luck? After that big earthquake, she showed up all by herself. The real Iris. She said she'd come to make sure the sacred cavern was alright. Stupid girl. I came out from the sacred cavern and got a feel for the situation. Yeah, you're Maya. And I locked her away in my place. I'd finally learned exactly what had happened. It was then that I learned that the plan had already actually succeeded. What do you mean your plan had succeeded? I had misunderstood one thing, you see. That night, the one that had summoned me had assumed that it was Pearl Fey. Well, of course she would have assumed that. It was written in the instructions. But I was wrong. The person that had actually called my spirit back was Misty Fey, the picture book author. What? Well, that's really the only possibility, isn't it? After I lost consciousness in the garden. Like right now, everything points to you being Maya, though. How has Phoenix not noticed that? It was her body that was left lying there. Maya Fey. I wasn't able to kill her with my own hands after all. But even so, I made her commit the most vile sin a human could commit. And that is? Matricide. The sin of killing her own mother. No way. No. I think this all comes back to Gadot, trying to protect Maya. That's what happened. Order! Order in the court. What is the meaning of this? It's true that I was the one who attacked Maya Fey. But even so, the murderer who actually snuffed out Misty Fey's life was none other than your darling little Maya. This is why you're doing it. You're trying to get Maya implicated. As her. She can't defend herself right now. Because you are her.
Objection!
Ridiculous. That's nonsense. Are you sure about that? Just think about it. There's even evidence supporting these facts, isn't there? What? What do you mean? What is this so-called evidence? The fact that Maya Fey has disappeared is evidence enough, isn't it? That's your game plan. So she can't give any testimony, so she's found guilty, and then suddenly she's back, arrested, executed, you win. That's your game plan. Huh? The idea that she's still in the sacred cavern is just ridiculous. She wasn't able to escape from the inner temple, and that much is obvious. In that case, there is only one place she could be. Where? Do I have to spell it out? The bottom of the Eagle River, where else? Eagle River? Maya Fey killed her long-lost mother. Why is no one questioning the fact, like, so who are you? Whose body do you have? Like, because if you're dead, you must have channeled to someone. It can't be Pearls. It can't be Iris. You're the one who said you locked her away. It can't be Bikini. It can only be Maya. Can you imagine the guilt she must have felt when she realized that? That's why she threw herself into Eagle River. Most bodies that wind up in there are lost forever. So what do you have to say now, Pheonix? Come on, Pheonix. Well, answer the phone. Whoops. Sorry, that's my phone. What kind of ringtone is that? Gadot here? Okay. Thanks. Was it something important? They just finished removing the locks from the sacred cavern. It's great. What about Maya? There was a woman in the cave. Was it Maya Fey? It was the accused, Sister Iris. Yeah. So Maya is the one on the stand. How are you guys not piecing that together? Whose body would be there? Like, she needs to be channeled into someone. Who else is it gonna be? Huh? Don't look so surprised. I locked her in there yesterday. I just finished telling you that. It's like throughout this I've been trying to figure out like what Dhalia's game plan is. It's like, this is it. So, what about Maya? Where is she? There was no one else found inside the sacred cavern. No, can't be. Come on, Pheonix. I told you, didn't I? She's dead. No. No. Come on, Pheonix, you're better than this. You know how these things work. It seems that this case has come to an end. A tragic end. Nope. Sadly, it appears the killer of Elise Duanim, also known as Misty Faye, was her own daughter, Maya Faye. Nope. Overcome with guilt for what she had done, Maya Faye jumped to her death in the raging waters of the Eagle River. Nope, nope, nope. It can't be. Huh. Trite. Have you ever heard this one? Once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth, no matter how improbable it may seem. What is that supposed to mean, Prosecutor Gadot? Sounds like something from the history books, from like Herlock Sholmes said that, I think? That was his name? According to this witness, Maya Faye threw herself into the Eagle River. However, is that really the truth? Remember, this woman testified earlier that the bridge was already on fire when the murder was taking place in the garden. Which means if Maya had thrown herself into the river, it must have been from the inner temple side near the bridge. Yeah, which you can't do because there's a bank down below. That's right, that's where she jumped from. But that's impossible. It's impossible to jump into the river from there. What? Don't get your panties all twisted up, Trite. Just relax and think through the whole thing again. So it's impossible. Maya couldn't have thrown herself into Eagle River. Well, Mr. Wright, Miss Hawthorne claims Miss Faye threw herself into the river from the inner temple's side. Do you have any evidence that refutes this claim? Well, I assumed the map? Oh, that's, that. Yeah, I assumed the map, right? Because it shows, like, there's a bank all along that side. If you jumped off, you'd land on the land. Not in the river.
Take that!
It's impossible to jump into the Eagle River from the inner temple side. No one knows that better than this witness. What did you say? 11 years ago, you jumped into the very same river. Just take a look at this overhead map. As you can see, below the cliff on the inner temple side is a big rock shelf. Oh, you're right. She wouldn't have reached the river if she had jumped off from there. In other words, if she had jumped, we should be able to see her body in this photo. I haven't got that far, but... Huh. So you finally figured it out. Q. No! Order! You're just playing with me. Maya Faye's body is at the bottom of the Eagle River. There's nowhere else she could possibly be hiding. Miss Hawthorne, have you ever heard this one before? Once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. Yes, just a few minutes ago. Maya Faye wasn't inside the sacred cavern. We know that she didn't throw herself into the Eagle River. Correct. That eliminates all the most likely possibilities. Now, although it seems improbable, there's still one other place she could be. What? What is this one possibility you are talking about? That's obviously a bluff. So where is her dead body then? It's not dead. Finally, I think the pieces are falling into place. Normally the living have no way to punish the dead. But I think there is a way to give Dhalia Hawthorne the ultimate punishment. Danganronpa. Shall I tell you, Miss Hawthorne? Shall I tell you where Maya is this very instant? Maya Fey is in this very courtroom.